How's it going, everybody? It's Young here, and welcome to a Death Stranding analysis video. One of the things that most caught my attention about the latest Death Stranding trailer was the skeleton soldiers marching in this ravaged environment. They seemed like they could offer some hints and clues about the enigmatic game, so I decided to do some research and analysis. One thing that a lot of people quickly discovered was that based on their attire and equipment, it's clear that these undead soldiers are what could be best described as remnants of World War II. Upon further examination, I also discovered that these are based on a real-life division of the US military known as the 101st Airborne Division. What is the 101st Airborne Division, you ask? This elite light infantry division specializes in air assault operations, which essentially involves dropping foot soldiers from the air through means such as parachute, helicopter, etc. The division was first formed a couple days before World War I came to an end, so they didn't really see any action until World War II. During World War II, the 101st Airborne Division played major roles in conflicts such as Operation Overlord, aka D-Day, Operation Market Garden, and the Battle of the Bulge. So how do I know that these skeleton soldiers were once part of the elite 101st Airborne Division, you ask? This can easily be discerned by the fact that their helmets are marked by a spade symbol. One of the most distinguishing features about the 101st is that the division's soldiers are marked by card suits on the side of their helmets based on the regiment that they are a part of. The ones with the spade symbol are known in real life as the 106th Infantry Regiment, or as they were known back in World War II, the 106th Parachute Infantry Regiment. So the full designation of the unit that these skeleton soldiers were a part of during World War II based on their attire would be the 101st Airborne Division's 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment. The best way to get to know these guys is by watching the HBO series Band of Brothers, which depicts the major battles that the 506th participated in during World War II. It's not a documentary or anything, so do expect certain dramatizations here and there, but the show should give you a pretty good idea of who the 506th were and what they accomplished. With that out of the way, let's talk about the three most well-known World War II battles that the 506th partook in: D-Day, Operation Market Garden, and the Battle of the Bulge. If you know anything about World War II, then D-Day should need no introduction. The Normandy landings on June 6, 1944 was one of the largest, if not the largest, seaborne invasions in history, and it played a pivotal role in the liberation of northwestern Europe from Nazi Germany's grasp. Equally pivotal was the participation of airborne units like the 506th, who landed via parachute and scattered all throughout Normandy during the parachute combat assault operation called Mission Albany, another key aspect of D-Day. Among the 506th's most famous accomplishments during D-Day was the Brecourt Manor Assault, where a small group of 12 men successfully managed to destroy a German artillery battery of 4 heavy guns that threatened the landing of other US forces. After landing, the 506th also carried out a variety of other tasks and participated in a variety of other battles throughout the Normandy campaign. After Normandy, the 506th participated in Operation Market Garden, which took place from September 17th to September 25th, 1944. The meat of the operation involved dropping airborne forces like the 101st near several key bridges in hopes to capture and secure them so that Allied ground forces like the British XXX Corps could penetrate into the German-occupied Netherlands. The 101st in particular was assigned to 5 of those bridges, but unfortunately, they only managed to secure 4. The one that they failed to capture was a bridge that resided in the Wilhelmina Canal in a municipal region of Netherlands called Zon en Brechel. Just as the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment made their approach, German forces blew up and destroyed the bridge right before their eyes. To make matters worse, there was another pivotal bridge residing in a city in Netherlands called Nijmegen that the 82nd Airborne Division could not secure as soon as they would have liked to, due to a combination of miscommunication and German retaliation. So the destruction of one bridge and the setback in securing another bridge resulted in the British XXX Corps delaying their advance, which allowed German forces to organize and retaliate before the operation could succeed. Allied forces did eventually manage to make their way into German-occupied Netherlands, but in the ensuing battles, they were eventually overrun and driven out. All in all, Operation Market Garden ended in failure, ending the Allies' expectations to finish the war early. Last but not least, for World War II, the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment participated in the Battle of the Bulge, which took place from December 16, 1944 to January 25, 1945, and it involved a surprise attack from the Germans against Allied forces in the Ardennes, a region of extensive forests, rough terrain, rolling hills, and ridges that stretches into Belgium and Luxembourg. While the Allies managed to overcome the German ambush, American forces suffered the most casualties of any World War II conflict in this battle. However, this was the last major offensive campaign that the Germans would execute before World War II came to an end months later. As for what role the 506th played during this battle, it's easier to read the excerpt from Wikipedia, which states the following. While resting and refitting in France after Operation Market Garden, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander on the Western Front, called upon the 101st Airborne Division on December 16th to be moved into the Belgian town of Bastogne by December 18th, so that the Germans would not gain access to its important crossroads. The short notice of a move left the unit short of food, ammunition, arms, men, and winter clothing. The unit, along with the rest of the 101st Airborne, was encircled immediately. The 506th was sent to the eastern section of the siege. During the siege, there were reports of problems with tying in the gap in between the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment and the 506th to stall the Germans so that the defense could be set up. The 1st Battalion of the 506th, along with Team Desabris from the 10th Armored Division, was sent out to combat and slow down the Germans in the towns of Noville and Foy. 1/3, about 200 men of the battalion was destroyed, but in the process had taken out 30 enemy tanks and inflicted 500 to 1,000 casualties. The battalion was put into reserve, and the 2nd and 3rd battalions were put on the lines. A supply drop on December 22nd helped to some extent. After the U.S. Third Army under General George Patton broke the encirclement, the 506th stayed on the line and spearheaded the entire offensive by liberating Foy and Noville in January, until being transferred to Haguenau. They were pulled out of the line in late February 1945. So with that history lesson out of the way, you may now be asking yourself, okay, how is any of this information relevant to Death Stranding? Well, by now, it's pretty certain that Kojima will be relying on pseudo-history to tell a story. So my train of thought is that by cross-referencing our real-world history with real-world elements shown in this trailer, we might be able to narrow down the trailer's setting. But in order to do that, it's important to address the presence of undead World War II 506 soldiers in what looks to be a futuristic, possibly post-apocalyptic world. The only deduction I can make is that the corpses of 506th soldiers were, through supernatural means, somehow brought back from the dead to be puppeteered via these black umbilical cord strands. It feels less like we have traveled back in time and more like relics of the past were somehow unearthed and brought into the future. Even the World War II tank seen in the trailer looks rusted and rough around the edges, as if it's been brought back from the grave after many years of decay. Everything World War II related in this trailer looks ancient. Now, assuming that this is indeed the case, perhaps it isn't too crazy to assume that these World War II relics seen in Death Stranding's trailer were brought back from where they last perished. Perhaps the skeleton 506th soldiers were resurrected directly from their last resting place after they were killed in action during the conflicts that the regiment partook in during World War II. In that case, maybe a good way to find hints regarding the trailer's setting is by cross-referencing the trailer with locations where the 506th were killed in action during World War II in our real-world history. And from the history lesson I gave you, that narrows it down to 3 possibilities: D-Day's Normandy, France, Operation Market Garden's Netherlands, or the Battle of the Bulges, Bastogne, Belgium. Let's first talk about the prospect of the trailer taking place in Normandy. One argument you could immediately make against this theory is that D-Day is mostly associated with the landing on the beaches, which is not what's portrayed in this trailer. But then again, the trailer does begin with a bunch of sea creatures strewn about, which may add credence to the possibility that the trailer does occur near a beach where sea creatures have stranded. Also, Normandy is more than just beaches. If you move further inland, you'll find populated areas with structures and edifices that certainly do bear resemblances to the ravaged buildings seen in the trailer. And while we're at it, let's talk about the fact that the World War II aircrafts and armored vehicle featured in the trailer are real-life models used during the Normandy campaign. After much research and deliberation, I discovered that these planes are most likely Republic P-47 Thunderbolt fighter aircrafts, while the tank is an M10 tank destroyer, both of which were used extensively by the American Army during the war. So Death Stranding's latest trailer not only showcases a setting that could be near a beach featuring ravaged buildings further inland akin to Normandy, but also elements of the US Army from World War II's Normandy campaign, like the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment soldiers, the M10 tank destroyers, and what looked to be P-47 Thunderbolt fighter aircrafts. With so many elements lining up, one could certainly make a case for the latest Death Stranding trailer possibly taking place in some kind of pseudo-historical, alternate universe, or post-apocalyptic version of Normandy, France. Another possibility is that the trailer takes place somewhere in Netherlands, which is where the 506th was deployed during Operation Market Garden to secure bridges that would allow Allied forces to advance into the German-occupied region. Now, the prospect of Netherlands being the trailer setting is an intriguing one. You know what else is from Netherlands? Guerrilla Games, the studio that powers the engine that Kojima Productions is using to bring Death Stranding to life. Now, that may sound like a silly line of reasoning, but keep in mind that Kojima has already gone out of his way to make historical references that aptly represent his partnership with the Dutch studio. A prime example is the name of their collaborative game engine, Decima, or Dejima, which is not only the name of a mythological entity who measures an individual's thread of life, but also the name of an artificial island that Japan used during the Edo period from 1641 to 1853 to do trade with Netherlands specifically, which was a big deal during a time when Japan had self-imposed isolationist policies. So the name Decima or Dejima essentially references how, in the same manner that Japan did trade with Netherlands through this isolated little island, Kojima Productions from Japan is doing trade with Guerrilla Game Studios from Netherlands through the Decima game engine that they're collaborating on, their own little isolated trading post, if you will. So my point is, who's to say that the latest trailer doesn't take place in Netherlands to further represent Kojima's partnership with Guerrilla, especially when it's one of the countries that the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment were deployed to during World War II. Also, consider that strands and connections are major themes in Death Stranding, which is why we're seeing things like a character that uses the 3D scan of one of Kojima's closest friends, Guillermo del Toro, which also goes in line with the whole theme of strands and connections. So who's to say that Kojima won't feature the nation from which his studio's closest partner, Guerrilla, hails from? Another interesting possible connection is the fact that a big part of Operation Market Garden involved the capturing and securing of bridges in Netherlands to allow Allied forces to mount an attack against the German-occupied region. Not only could this be another reference to the theme of strands and connections, since bridges are meant to connect to different land masses, it also lines up with the fact that the pin that Guillermo del Toro's character is wearing here is labeled Bridges, along with the fact that we do see these American forces marching through this small bridge at one point in the trailer, almost as if securing the bridge in a similar fashion to how the 506th was tasked to secure bridges residing in the Dutch region of Son en Brejol. With so many thematic elements lining up, one could make a case for the trailer setting being a pseudo-historical version of a region of Netherlands where the 506th traversed through during World War II's Operation Market Garden. One last possibility is that the trailer setting might be Bastogne, Belgium, where the 506th was deployed during the Battle of the Bulge. The case one could make for Bastogne being the trailer setting is actually very similar to Normandy's. Like in Normandy, the 506th sustained significant casualties during the Battle of the Bulge. In fact, the Battle of the Bulge, as I said before, is considered to be the conflict where American forces suffered the most losses of any World War II battle. So with Bastogne featuring a significant concentration of fallen 506th corpses, who's to say that whatever supernatural forces are at play here didn't take advantage of this to bring as many of these corpses back to life in bulk to form this sizable army of undead 506th soldiers. Also pivotal is the fact that, like during the Normandy campaign, the US Army deployed the same P-47 Thunderbolt fighter aircrafts and M10 tank destroyers portrayed in Death Stranding's trailer during the Battle of the Bulge, which further adds to the possibility that the trailer setting may very well be Bastogne, Belgium. I would also like to draw your attention to some of these real-life photos of Bastogne during World War II. These ruined regions and ravaged buildings scattered about sure look very similar to the ones seen in Death Stranding's trailer, wouldn't you say? So combine the fact that all of the World War II elements seen in the Death Stranding trailer were also deployed during the Battle of the Bulge, such as the 506th soldiers, the P-47 planes, and the M10 tanks, along with the fact that the ravaged setting in the trailer does resemble the ravaged Bastogne from World War II, and you've got yourself another candidate. So the bottom line is that by cross-referencing Death Stranding's trailer with regions of the world where the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment soldiers, P-47 Thunderbolt fighters, and M10 tank destroyers were deployed during World War II, we may be looking at three possible settings for Death Stranding's second trailer: Normandy, France, a region in Netherlands, or Bastogne, Belgium. Between those three, I wish I could narrow down which one I believe to be the most likely, but I found that I could make a case for all of them. On the one hand, Netherlands has a lot of interesting thematic correlations, but Normandy and Bastogne were both the setting of conflicts in which the American military deployed the same units seen in the trailer, like the 506 soldiers, the P-47 fighter aircrafts, and the M10 tanks, all of which seem to have been brought back from the dead like unearthed relics and formed into a makeshift army by some mysterious supernatural entity, possibly related to Mads Mikkelsen's character. Before concluding this analysis, I do want to point out two other things that may provide further hints regarding the trailer's setting. First, I'd like to draw your attention to what looks to be utility poles. Notice how these obelisk-shaped towers are unlike anything that exists in our real world. What this tells me is that Death Stranding does indeed take place in some kind of alternate universe or a pseudo-historical future where World War II relics have somehow been raised from the grave. I know there are some theories out there stating that we might be seeing time travel at play, but to me it feels less like we have traveled back in time from the future to the past, and more like the past has been unearthed and brought to the future, especially when you consider how old all of these World War II elements look in Death Stranding, as well as the futuristic tech and these strange obelisk utility poles. Next, I'd like to draw your attention to this part of the trailer, where unbeknownst to many, it's actually possible to make out some faint dialogue in the background. Take a close listen. So yeah, very subtle and almost unintelligible. Fortunately, a Reddit user going by the name of Coyote Kaz managed to discover that the dialogue is being spoken in German, and he managed to roughly translate the dialogue to, "You can't just stand around and do nothing. We or you have to do what deems to be right. That means everyone has to," and then the dialogue cuts off. I can't tell if this is a piece of propaganda from the invaders, or if these are words of rebellion from the invadees. There is all manner of ways you can interpret this, but for the purposes of this analysis, the most important thing is the fact that we're hearing German dialogue, which tells me that, at the very least, the trailer does take place somewhere in Europe. Going a little further, when you consider how this trailer makes so many references to World War II, a time when Germany had occupied many regions of Europe, it makes it all the more likely that Normandy, France, Netherlands, or Bastogne, Belgium might indeed be candidates for the trailer's setting, as they were all at some point occupied by Germany during World War II. and the German dialogue in the background only serves to further add credence to this theory. To finish off the analysis, here's one last bit of food for thought. Among the languages that Mads Mikkelsen speaks is none other than German, as confirmed in an interview that he did with website The Global Town Hall. This raises an interesting question. Could Mads Mikkelsen's character be German or be living under the guise of a German? If so, could it be that this invasion is being carried out by German forces who, through supernatural or maybe even technological means, have managed to create an army of undead American World War II soldiers and vehicles to wreak havoc upon this land? This might explain why the skeleton soldier's shoulder sleeve insignia is different from the ones you'd find on a real-life 101st Airborne Division soldier. The 506th spade symbol can still be found on the helmet, but the different shoulder sleeve insignia might be further indication that another group is behind this. Maybe they replaced the Airborne Division insignias that were there before with one of their own. This almost feels like a big fuck you to America in that fallen American soldiers are being used to destroy the very same land that they once protected. At the very least, I'm confident in saying that these undead American forces are not under American control. Otherwise, there would be no reason for Guillermo's character, who is from the United Cities of America, to be freaked out and paranoid as he makes his way through this landscape. Not to mention that Mads Mikkelsen's character, who is most likely not American, most likely European in nature, is in control of some of these American 506th soldiers, which tells me once again that these American forces are being controlled by foreign powers, possibly European in nature. So, to sum everything up, my theory is that based on the fact that Death Stranding's second trailer constantly alludes to World War II, by cross-referencing the trailer with our real-world World War II history, it's possible to make a case for the trailer taking place in one of the three locations that the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment were deployed to during World War II: Normandy, France, Netherlands, and Bastogne, Belgium. Furthermore, the fact that we can hear German dialogue being spoken in the background at least makes it very likely that Death Stranding's second trailer takes place in Europe. It's also worth noting that these obelisk-shaped utility poles further hints that the trailer takes place in some kind of alternate or futuristic world. Finally, I believe that these undead American soldiers, aircrafts, and vehicles are being controlled not by America, but by outside antagonistic forces, possibly German in nature when you consider the antagonistic role that the Germans played during World War II, as well as the fact that we can hear German dialogue in the background at one point in the trailer, and that Mads Mikkelsen, the main antagonist of the game, speaks German. So, yeah, a lot to think about. Those are just my thoughts and theories though. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. What do you make of my theories regarding the second trailer's possible setting and the nature of the undead American World War II forces? Do you have anything to add, or is there something you'd like to correct? Do you think I'm reaching too far, or do you think I'm onto something? Let us know in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things Death Stranding, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out!